Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Greenewald, chair of the History Consortium, and welcome to our third annual series of educational programs. And this evening, we will feature the Cumberland County Historical Society. We'll be talking about one of the founders of that organization. And before we get started, though, I have to thank some very special people, the folks at the Carroll County Public Library, especially Amber Ferran, Ian Trowiski, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Ian, and especially Lisa Picker, who's on a very well-deserved vacation, who helped us glue all of this together and who provided the software, the StreamYard program for our annual programs. And she always sticks with us through thick and thin. Well, let me tell you a little bit about the lady from the Cumberland County Historical Society who put together the video you're about to see, and that young lady's name is Mary Lou Schauman, and she's been researching and writing about Cumberland County history for several decades. Subjects of her books include county records, histories of Carlisle, taverns, plank-bottom chairs, cabinet makers of Cumberland County, as well as her book about the life and work of Carlisle silversmith George Hendel. Mary Lou is a past president of the Cumberland County Historical Society, Historic Carlisle Incorporated, director of the 250th anniversary of Cumberland County, and the recipient of the Molly Pitcher Award in 2000. She's currently a member of the board of the Cumberland County Historical Society and chairman of the 150th anniversary of the society in 2024. So let me turn it over to the executive director of the Cumberland County Historical Society, Sean Gladden. Sean, it's all yours.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. And it is a pleasure to represent the Cumberland County Historical Society here at this year's History Consortium. And I believe we're the kickoff crew tonight, so we're happy to kick off the consortium. Mary Lou Schauman, it was a wonderful bio and introduction. Mary Lou Schauman provided us the script for this documentary short documentary, about 8 minutes long, that we're going to play on James Hamilton Jr., the founder of the Cumberland County Historical Society. Now, we're doing this as a part of our promotional material for next year's 150th anniversary of our organization. And so this video will kind of tell you that story. Mary Lou was having some technical difficulties, but it looks like she's back. So at the end of the documentary, we will have Mary Lou to answer any questions. So if you have questions during the documentary about the Cumberland County Historical Society, James Hamilton Jr., maybe some Carlisle history, certainly put it in the chat, and I will be moderating the Q&A session with Mary Lou at the end of this session, or at the end of this video. So I can say from a personal and professional note, I've worked in numerous historic towns and for historical societies. I worked for the Maryland Historical Society in Baltimore. I've worked for the Howard County Historical Society, so you can see my flag where I'm actually from. But now I'm in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and Carlisle is a great place to do professional history work. The town is a wonderful historic town. The historic district is spectacular. Our museum is a free museum right in the heart of Carlisle, and we're surrounded by history, and the families there are legacy families have been there 5, 6, 7 generations. It's really is a great place to do history. So as we were doing the research, as I was working on the research with Mary Lou and putting this little video together, it once again kind of hammers home what Carlisle is. And as I'm learning what Carlisle is, there's a strong academic background to the community of Carlisle. And I think that's something that we will see in this video, and certainly something that Mary Lou will talk about afterwards. So sit back, relax, and watch this short video on James Hamilton Jr. Take it away.
A legacy unwritten. James Hamilton Jr., and the Cumberland County Historical Society. In the heart of historic Carlisle, Pennsylvania, there stands a testament to a man's vision, a legacy bound by the written word, and his commitment to knowledge. This is the story of James Hamilton Jr., founder of the Hamilton Library Association in 1874, which became the Cumberland County Historical Society. As we enter our 150th anniversary, we honor our founders' contributions to the Carlisle community and society as a whole. Born in Carlisle in 1793, James Hamilton Jr. was a beacon of light during a transformative era in American history. His father, a respected judge, laid the foundation for James Jr.'s education, acquiring a vast library in their lavish three-story home. By age 14, James Jr. was expanding his horizons at the Lower Dublin Academy near Philadelphia. James's father entrusted his friends, Philadelphia merchants John Brown and John Leamy, with overseeing James's care and educational needs, and it was Judge Hamilton's correspondence with these men that provide historians with details about his son's education. After a 10-day stay in Philadelphia with Mr. Brown in January 1809, James returned to the academy. Mr. Brown reported to Judge Hamilton that
James was by no means any trouble to me. On the contrary, I am always pleased and happy to have him with me. He is good, mild, and unassuming, and possesses the esteem and goodwill of everyone, more particularly his master, who is very much attached to him, and gives a most favorable account of his behavior and improvement.
Yet life was not all study. There were celebrations, moments of jubilation, and camaraderies like the one he shared with John Leamy, Jr. Philadelphia was more than a school. It was a revelation, a place where James not only learned but lived. He made connections, understood the world, and prepared for his next academic challenge at Dickinson College. Education was paramount, but youthful exuberance occasionally took precedence, and it did not go down well with their fathers. Mr. Leamy wrote to Judge Hamilton,
My son informs me that the students had a frolic on the 4th of July, that they all dined together out of town, drank wine and punch, and marched through the town with music.
Judge Hamilton responded to Mr. Leamy's concerns, and Mr. Leamy replied,
I observe what you say about the celebration of the 4th of July and its consequences, and feel much pleased that it is intended to be discontinued. At the same time, I must express my surprise at the practice without the sanction of the trustees, of the college, or its officers. Indeed, it should not be permitted to young gentlemen whose whole time, attention, and mind should be devoted to their study.
James's horizon expanded beyond Carlisle. Letters from friends across the sea beckoned him to explore the broader world. James graduated from Dickinson College in 1812, and in 1816 he was admitted to the bar of Cumberland County. But law was not his passion. The death of his father in 1819 left James independently wealthy and enabled him to shift his focus from the courtroom to education and philanthropy. In 1824, General Lafayette, the nation's hero, made his farewell tour of America. James was one of the men from Carlisle appointed to go to Philadelphia and extend an invitation to Lafayette to visit Carlisle. It marked a significant chapter in James's life, showcasing his growing stature in society. Yet, amidst all the accolades, his true passion lay in education. He played a seminal role in shaping Carlisle's public schools, steering the Board of Education for decades. Philanthropy knew no bounds for James. The Smithsonian was one of the many beneficiaries of his generosity. Hamilton's bequest to the Smithsonian specified that the interest on his $1,000 gift was to be appropriated biennially by the secretaries either in money or a medal, for such contribution, paper, or lecture on any scientific or useful subject as said secretaries may approve. Religion was also very important in Hamilton's life. Raised a Presbyterian, he was a Sunday school superintendent and trustee of the Second Presbyterian Church of Carlisle. In his first will, dated November 20, 1871, Hamilton instructed his executors to pay $2,000 to any incorporated company in Carlisle for the establishment of a town library. To that end he directed that 60 feet square off the corner of lot number 85 in the plot of said town of Carlisle, at the intersection of Pitt Street and Dickinson Alley, being the northwest corner of my garden, be given for a suitable building to be erected. Hamilton drew up a second will on January 13, 1873, giving the brick house that he owned, next to his residence on High Street, to the trustees, stipulating that $4,000 should be invested with the Orphans' Court and the interest be used for the establishment of a town library. He directed them to fit up the 2 rooms above the parlor for a museum of fine arts, paintings and antiquities, and the 2 rooms now used as parlors for a library. The trustees named in Hamilton's will drew up a constitution and bylaws, and a charter was granted to the Hamilton Library Association on April 21, 1874. The actual construction of the building was delayed for 7 years, with the first building of the Hamilton Library Association being built in 1881 at the cost of $1,789.85. By 1900, with the creation of the J. Herman Bossler Lending Library, the Hamilton Library could focus on the collection and preservation of local history, thus leading to it being called the Hamilton Library and Historical Association, and eventually the Cumberland County Historical Society. Hamilton died on January 23, 1873. He made bequests in his will to many friends and relatives, but the bulk of his fortune went to members of his father's side of the family. He is buried in the family plot in Carlisle's old graveyard. From the young scholar in Carlisle to the visionary behind the Cumberland County Historical Society, James Hamilton, Jr.'s legacy is etched in every letter, every book, and the very fabric of the society. As we approach its 150th anniversary in 2024, we celebrate a life lived for knowledge and community.
Try that again. That is a brief history of James Hamilton Jr., essentially the founder of the Cumberland County Historical Society. I have with me Mary Lou Shaman. Mary Lou.
Hello.
Hey, the voice of Mary Lou Shaman is here. We were having technical difficulties, but we're happy to have Mary Lou here. Mary Lou, do you have anything on in the background? Getting some.
No, I don't have anything on in the background.
I don't hear it anymore, so I guess.
All right.
Okay, well, I wanted to have a Q&A with the voice of Mary Lou Shaman, who helped put together the script for that documentary. I was hoping, Mary Lou, you might be able to tell us a little bit more, expand on the life of James Hamilton Jr. and his influence on the Cumberland County Historical Society and the community of Carlisle.
Yes, his father was born in Dublin, schooled at the Inns of Court in London, and came to America during the Revolution. He settled in Carlisle and fortunately became the partner of the wealthiest attorney in town. Carlisle was a very important colonial town. It was the scene of endless wagon trains, the fur traders going to the Ohio country. It is, of course, now the home of the Carlisle car show, which everybody seems to know no matter where I go. But more importantly, the barracks, which was established during the French and Indian War, and also the home of Dickinson College. James Hamilton's father became a judge in 1806. And if you notice the first portrait in the presentation, it gives his years as 1806 to 1819. And those are the years that he was a judge, because his son was born in 1793. The family was one of the most prominent in town. 3 daughters survived. There were 4 children in the family. The girls were all sent away to school in the era of Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice. The girls were sent to Philadelphia to learn to paint, play the piano, learn French, and become sociable young ladies. Another sister was sent to St. Joseph's Academy, which was in Emmitsburg, and became the Marymount College. Unfortunately, there are no descendants of this branch of the family. 2 of the girls died young. The 3rd daughter married but had no children, and James never married. I always enjoy the story, whether it's fantasy or not, but people report that James did have his eye on a local woman, took her in his buggy 6 miles away to Mount Holly Springs, and proposed to her. She said no, and he reportedly suggested she walk home. Again, he had a wonderful library, and the family kept every single letter and document they received. We have a wonderful collection of records called the Hamilton collection that was purchased by the Philadelphia Historical Society. There are 18,000 documents covering papers from the law school, military records from the Revolutionary War, records on architecture. It's an incredible collection. And the Historical Society has a microfilm copy of the collection, along with a wonderful research library and an enormous collection of Carlisle Indian School material and photographs. Film producers and authors from all over use our materials. So we are happy to actually have our 150th anniversary on the same day, 150 years later, that the organization was founded. Do you have any questions?
I haven't seen any come in, but I have some questions, Mary Lou.
Yes.
Talk about, if you can, we hear about the law background in the Hamilton family, and obviously being in Carlisle and being next to a fine law school like Dickinson University. Can you speak a little bit?
1751, Cumberland County included all the land from the Susquehanna River west to what is now Pittsburgh. An incredible amount of land that was eventually broken up into many different counties. So Carlisle, again, was the county seat, and during the colonial era in the 18th century, attorneys traveled. And so we have many documents in our archives that are signed by people that were signers of the Declaration of Independence. There's and the Hamiltons were related to some of them. George Ross from Lancaster County, James Wilson lived in Carlisle and practiced law at the same time that James Hamilton's father did. So again, our law school was founded in 1835 and, well, is now part of Dickinson, part of Penn State Law School. James Hamilton didn't particularly take to the law, and letters between his father and John Brown are a little worried that maybe the law wasn't for him, but he tried. And again, his father became independently wealthy through land in Western Pennsylvania. And again, this was how James was able to leave the law and concentrate on education and charity work.
Mary Lou, we do have a question. Jeff Greenewalt asks, James' life extended through an extremely eventful period in American history. Here it is up on the screen. Was he involved in any other events not yet mentioned? For example, was he an abolitionist or active in the Civil War, etc.? What were his political views? Where was he when all of these events were going on during that influential Federalist period?
That's very interesting because we have no documentation or letters that we're aware of that he was involved in the abolitionist movement. He was too old to be in the Civil War. So again, it was mainly education. He was on the board of Dickinson College. He was on the board of the church that he belonged to. But again, we have no other documentation of things like this.
Okay. Can you speak a little bit to that Lafayette piece that was mentioned in the video? What happened with him trying to meet the Marquis de Lafayette?
Well, the town of Carlisle held a meeting and they wanted Lafayette to come to Carlisle. Lafayette must have been exhausted after his tour because the pomp and circumstance everywhere he went and all the people that he met and all the dinners that he had to eat. So Carlisle appointed James Hamilton and two other men to go to Philadelphia and personally meet him and extend an invitation to come to Carlisle. Unfortunately, the closest he got to Carlisle was Harrisburg, which is about 20 miles away, and it's our state capital. He went to Lancaster, but he just never got to Carlisle, unfortunately. But at least James and several other men got to meet him in person.
Okay. Explain how you've been involved with the Cumberland County Historical Society for a very long time. You've published a few books. I'm very familiar with your work. If anyone is interested, Mary Lou has an entire page devoted to her in our Gardner Library, which you can access right off of our website, which conveniently enough is www.historicalsociety.com. I do believe we were one of the first historical societies to get a web page. But Mary Lou, you've authored so much great history for our organization. Tell us your personal feelings on the influence that James Hamilton Jr. and his legacy had on this institution and the wonderful history that we've had coming up on 150 years.
Well, I've been very pleased to have been involved in the Cumberland County Historical Society since my husband was in law school at Dickinson. I've seen it grow from a very small organization to expand many times over. One of the things that we're doing for the 150th anniversary is producing a pictorial history of the county. We have wonderful photographs from the early years, from the early 1900s, and it's going to be published 350 pages. What's incredible about the Historical Society is that it was started and made possible through James Hamilton's vision. But there were years when it was tough going because it was held together by a group of local historians, attorneys, etc., who read papers to each other. They didn't really open the building to the public, and it wasn't until after Carlisle opened its first public library that the group of men decided that they should also focus on history. And the organization has grown and grown. One of the reasons that it's grown is because of our academics institutions in the area. And through the 1950s, 60s, 70s, etc., we've had many professors and historians on our board. We have a great group of volunteers, and we continue to grow. The photo archives has over several million photos. Our library is filled with wonderful documents. And thanks to the support from locals, from people in the county, we continue to grow. And I'm very proud to have been a part of this organization and watched it grow for so many years.
Great. Let me see. I don't see we have any other questions. There was something else that was mentioned in the video that I think we could kind of expand on a little bit. So my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, when James Hamilton left the funds to start a library, that was because there was not a library currently in Carlisle. So for the first maybe 10 years, 20 years or so before the Bosler Library.
Yes.
Okay, so the Bosler Library opens around 19.
Yes, about 1905, I believe. So really, for the first several decades, it was just a private organization with members who came to hear lectures. And around the time of the First World War, they decided to go on day outings to learn more about the history of the county. So really, it was a private organization until they realized, with the opening of Carlisle's first public library, that they needed to do more.
Mm-hmm. So when Bosler, once again, tell me if I'm wrong on this one, but it seems like the identity of the Cumberland County Historical Society, whether we were a lending library or whether we were a preservation society, wasn't really identified until after Bosler opened, because then Bosler could be the lending library. And then is that kind of the path forward to the Cumberland County Historical Society, is when Bosler comes into town? Or is that part of that story?
Yes, really, because it made them realize that they had to expand. They wanted to expand. People were interested in history, so they started to acquire artifacts, and they realized that they had to be open to the public. And really, the years, the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s were very slow years, but everything took off around in the 1950s and 60s.
Is that when a bulk of the collection started to grow? 50s, 60s,
Yes.
70s, yeah.
Yes. Because before then, people were donating. As far as the library, they were donating just old books that they thought were interesting. There wasn't really an emphasis on local history.
Mhm.
but that grew, and there you go.
Let's see. Do we have any other questions out there on James Hamilton Jr. or the Cumberland County Historical Society or Carlisle? Well, I know that many of our audience and those who participate in the consortium are colleagues of ours and from other historical societies. And as I opened up my intro, is I've had the fortune of working for a few great organizations and kind of moved around a little bit in the Maryland, Pennsylvania area. And this is certainly a fascinating collection. Mary Lou said earlier about millions of photographs. I quote 5 million photographs is what I quote as being in our collection. Does that sound valid, Mary Lou?
Absolutely.
Can you speak a little bit about our esteemed photo curator, Richard Tritt, and the photo collection that he's put together over the last 20, 30 years?
Richard Tritt is a retired French teacher. He retired very young. And in 1986, he came aboard to help curate a collection of glass plate negatives from the middle and late 19th century. He became curator and photo curator and museum curator. He's still there. The collection has grown and grown, and I'm also volunteering in the photo archives. You can imagine how many volunteers it takes to try to enter into digital format the information and scan the photos. It's just a never ending. Fortunately, people keep giving wonderful collections. And so we have many, again, we have an incredible Indian school collection, but we have collections, the Jim Bradley collection. Jim Bradley was a photographer locally, and he and his wife both donated their collections recently, and his collection contains over 1 million slides and photographs that represent primarily railroads. So it's an enormous attraction for people all over the country who are interested in railroads. So Richard is a gem.
Yeah, indeed. We do have a question. Do you have a photo restorer on staff or someone who volunteers at the Historical Society? I could kind of answer that a little bit. We don't have a photo conservator, so to speak. And if we had, we would probably outsource that if we had to. But Mary Lou, do you want to speak about the wonderful volunteers that we do have in the photo department?
Yes. I think everyone's probably dealing with the new and past perfect program. Again, we have probably more volunteers than we have machines for. It's wonderful. Our organization has always depended on volunteers, and they are what has helped our organization grow. But as with every place, as you get more and more, you need more space. And so right now, the photo archives is still accepting photographs, but we're hoping to be able to expand in the future.
Yes, indeed. All right, Amber, I can ask some more questions. I don't know how much longer you wanted us to go. I'm going to wait till I hear from the... Okay, up to us. Well, Mary Lou, let's use this platform that we have to talk about this great year that we're doing next year. This great event, this year-long celebration, the 150th anniversary of the Cumberland County Historical Society.
That's right. And as I said, on the actual date, 150 years from the founding, we are having a opening exhibit and a celebration, a birthday party. We'll have food and photos and nostalgia to kick off our 150th, and that'll be on a Sunday afternoon. In June, we're going to have a special guest lecturer and dinner, and the lecturer is Jeff Shara, author of The Old Lion, a novel about Theodore Roosevelt, the author of Gods and Generals and The Last Full Measure. In August, we'll be having our annual block party, which will focus on our 150th anniversary. The historic 2 Mile House will have a tea in August. And as I said, we will be producing a book, the 150th anniversary pictorial history of our society, in April.
And yep, and we're on the curatorial side. I can say that we're definitely looking forward to not only having our own celebratory exhibit on our organization's 150th anniversary, but we're also going to dust off everything in our collection from the 1870s, the decade, that we were founded. So we're going to do a really neat 1870s exhibit to go along with our 150th anniversary exhibit. And we have become very, very busy in programming, whether it be homeschool programming, whether it be programming for lectures and programming for the community, or whether it be our outreach events like concerts or annual bus tours. So we're going to be very, very active in 2024. Mary Lou, do you have anything to add? I think that was my way of kind of wrapping things up.
We hope that you would like to come and visit our society in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, signing off. Thank you, everyone. www.historicalsociety.com. Come on up to Carlisle for a weekend. Not on the weekend when the car show is in town, right now.
Correct.
Stay away from Carlisle on car show weekends. But other than that, come up and visit us. We're a free museum in the heart of Carlisle, right behind the world famous Hamilton restaurant. Get your hotchie dogs and come visit our wonderful free museum. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to also thank Jeff and Amber and everyone with the History Consortium. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.